We're back. It's another week. It's another podcast. It's Leon this week, and it's only myself and Jimmy P, James Pagodage. Evan and Adam can't make it. The listeners won't know this, but it's a big evening for both Evan and Adam because Evan is chair and Adam's vice chair of the South Wales Swingers Club, and they've got their AGM this weekend.
Hmm.
So, on tonight, I should say, not this weekend.
The
So
weird
yeah.
thing is they've taken each other's wives.
Yeah. And but what's good about the AGM is they have there's a formal bit beforehand where they decide where their next events are and how they're going to spend the money for the year, and then they have a bit of tickle and fun. How's your mum sort of scenario? So yeah, that's where they are. So if you ever see them, say hi to Ev and Adam. Ask them how their swinging antics are going.
He loves a dialogue about this sort of stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Good lad.
Anyway, yeah. So it's just me and Prague tonight, and we're looking at back at Leon, and I'm jumping straight in, and it was Prague who introduced me to this film, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Prague, you had a copy of this in university, similar story as everything else, and that was the first time I watched it. So we're talking early 2000s, I reckon. Probably when we lived in King Street, so we're looking at around about 2001-ish, maybe a bit later.
I actually reckon you're right about all the uni stuff, but I think the house would have been Meadow Street because I think
Meadow.
that's where I started buying my VHS tapes because they were always HMB were doing the 3 for 20s when they.
Yeah, no, and I again, I often put my bloody colors to the mast quite early on. I do enjoy this film. I think it's a really, really good film. Um, but funnily enough,
Are we going to
this
get into
time
the
round,
director's cut or the theatrical cut?
yeah, but I was gonna say I watched the director's cut, whereas
I did as well.
previously I've only seen the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
So I watched the one that's about 2 hours and 20, maybe a bit longer. And we'll get into it in a bit, but I prefer the theatrical cut, I will admit.
Oh, I do as well. I think the theatrical cut is much cleaner, slicker, and overall just a better film.
Yeah, and there's a couple of aspects in it, and we'll get into it. Yeah, the sexuality, not sexuality, but the nature of the relationship. I think the longer version touches on that a lot
It,
more.
I think the longer version it complicates the relationship, whereas the shorter version it allows you to draw your own conclusions. Because
Yeah, yeah.
when you watch the shorter version, yes, Matilda still says she's in love with Leon, but you can kind of pass her off as this sort of like crush on this guy who saved her life. And when I watch the shorter version, I always think Leon, he's a very simple guy, isn't he? He's not
He's
like,
a bit of a man child, isn't he? Let's put it that
yeah,
way.
exactly.
I tell you the bit that cements that for me is when he sat in the cinema and he's just got that like expression on his face of like a 3-year-old who's just seen magic for the first time or something, and he's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is brilliant.
Someone needs to screenshot that.
There's the thumbnail.
But because he's a simple guy, when you watch the shorter version, I think you can interpret his feelings to Matilda as paternal.
Yeah.
Like when he says to Matilda at the end, "I love you," you can kind of see it as like he's grown to love her, as in he wants to look after her. But I think with the longer version, there's one key scene, isn't it, that complicates it, and it's the scene where Matilda talks about losing her virginity.
In the shorter version,
Hmm.
do you have the scene where he gets into bed with her?
No, right. In the shorter version, there's from about 50 minutes to an hour and 15, all of that is scooped out. So know all the bits where he's taking her on jobs and introducing her to Tony
Yeah.
and all that kind of and the sort of additional stuff in between the sort of sandwiched in about them like talking to each other. That is all gone in the
Okay.
shorter version. And the other scene that's gone is her talking about losing her virginity and wearing the dress that he bought her and her putting him to bed. In the shorter version, you just see one day that he's walking up and they've slept in the same bed. But I think the key in that version is that he's still wearing the same clothes that he wore the night before.
Yeah, and that the reason for the theatrical cut, I'm led to believe, was around the test audiences really didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No,
sorry. Oh, go on.
no, I was just gonna say, right. I don't personally, right, have an issue with the subject matter with the longer cut, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not condoning
Yeah,
the
yeah,
relationship. What I'm saying though is that in film, you're showing a complicated relationship, right? The characters are meant to be complicated in film. You're talking about a guy who's a hitman, right?
yeah,
And yes, he is, for all intents and purposes, the protagonist of the story, right? The audience are drawn to him as sort of like the person that they want to succeed in the film. But that doesn't mean that that character, not necessarily Leon, but characters like that can't have complications. Now, in the longer version, the complication is obviously, is he going to turn into a man that has a relationship with an underage girl? But in the shorter version, because all that stuff's scooped out, I don't personally, I never drew that conclusion. I always looked at it as he was starting to feel for her as a
parent
parental.
or a guardian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was looking after her.
And do you know what, right? I've always thought this about the film, that I thought that as well, but hoped it wasn't the other.
Yeah,
I remember watching this as, early in, university in my 20s, thinking, I drew it as, yeah, he's now taking on that role as her guardian. He's going to have some form of feelings for her from a protective point of view, but I hope it's not anything else.
it's a perfect way to put it. I think because I know, I'm pretty sure you think the same way as me, because you enjoy the film so much, and you like Matilda and Leon as characters. You are, certainly when you're watching the long version, you're like, I don't want it to be this. I want it to be the paternal, like, father daughter relationship. I don't want it to be the other. So when you watch the shorter version, you can cling on to that. You can say to yourself, this is the version it's meant to be. So I'm going to watch this one. And then I can say to myself, the relationship is paternal. When you get the director's cut and you chuck all the extra stuff in, it just muddies the water so much. Now, yes, I think you can still somewhat get away with Leon. He doesn't do anything, right? But because of a few pieces of dialogue and some of the additional scenes, it just complicates stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you
So
want to get into that at the end, or did you not mind?
no, I think it's fine to bring it up now because I think it's important to it's going to sort of possibly just impact on some of my other sort of points that we're going to have later. So I think it's important to bring it up now and just to say, like, I'm not sure the film has a problem with it, but
Mm.
again, it'll depend on what version the audience watch.
Well,
And
it goes to it goes to our memories, because the only version we ever watched when we were younger is the theatrical cut. Is
yeah,
the short
well, it
version.
wasn't until Adam said when I said, look, the next film is going to be Leon. He said, I hope it's going to be the theatrical cut and not the director's cut. But
Yeah.
that was really good then because it was in my head. I was thinking, oh, okay, I'll watch the theatrical cut too because everyone else probably will. But I could only find the longer version. So I in a way, I'm glad I watched the longer version. I probably never will again because I enjoy the other version too much.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I watched it. One, to inform this discussion, and two, just to see like what the director was trying to do as well.
Yeah. I think, well, personally, I deliberately watched the director's cut because I'd never seen it before. So, and I've seen the theatrical cut so many times that I was like, I'm gonna watch the director's cut so I can compare, and we can actually try and sort of have a conversation about, those additional scenes, what it does to the the subtext of the film.
Well,
Can we also say as well, right, about the director and the writer, Luc Besson? He's French, right? It's a different culture there. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean I'm excusing anything to do with, underage relationships, anything like that, right? But he and French people, as not as a whole, but a lot of French people, because it's like something in their culture from back in the day, they have a different outlook on that type of stuff. Now, I don't know if it's changed, if it's the same. I don't know at all. All I know is that having seen interviews with Luc Besson or read interviews, I'm pretty sure that he was in a relationship when he was a minor with an older woman. And I think that has informed some of his writing and filmmaking.
okay.
And I think that's evident. I think that's evident with particularly this film. And in this film, what he's done is he's obviously switched the genders, hasn't he?
What's the other film he did with Jean Reno in? Oh, that's La Femme Nikita.
Nikita, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but by the cover, I'm assuming that's got some sexual tones in it as well.
Yeah, it's not like it's not underage or anything. I've seen that film twice. I wasn't a massive fan of it. I can see what he was doing in comparison to Leon, but the
Um,
overall plot of the film is a bit much for me.
the other thing I'll mention now, and I'm not again, no sort of what's the word I'm looking for? No approval of this or anything, but the
Well,
age
no,
of consent is,
we're just talking about this stuff for
yeah,
context, aren't we?
the
So
age of consent is different in France, isn't it? At
right,
one
okay.
point, I don't know if it still is, but wasn't it around the age of 15?
I think he was lower than that at some point, but
France sets age of consent at 15. Sex between adults and minors under 15 was already legal, but only prosecuted as rape if there was proof. Okay. But yeah, again, it's a slightly different culture.
yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not. The one thing I found really interesting was reading up on what's her name, Natalie Portman, and her taking the role.
Mm,
So I don't think she was originally cast as it, but ultimately she got cast as Matilda. But her parents supposedly were dead against her being in the film.
mm.
They read the script and they were like, no way. Whereas and again, reading this off the internet, supposedly she read the script and was so moved by it she wanted to do it. Bear in mind, she's a 12 or 13 or 11-year-old girl at the time, which I don't know how true that is. And also, this is her first major movie, isn't it? I think.
I know. Can I just
Yeah.
say she's fucking incredible in it?
Oh, she's brilliant in it. Absolutely brilliant. And I love Natalie Portman anyway.
Yeah,
But there's loads of things then that her parents stipulated within the contract. So, no, she's smoking in the movie. At
yeah.
no
She
point
doesn't.
does she ever actually put it to her mouth.
Mm,
I think in the contract, it was said that she could hold a cigarette in 5 scenes, but never once take a drag from it.
yeah,
There was a scene in the original script where Leon accidentally walks in on Matilda in the shower. Her parents were not happy with that.
good for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Only because again the sort of sexual undertones in it. They
Well,
said about
what it does, scenes like that, they sexualize the character,
yeah,
and what you're doing is you're sexualizing an underage girl.
and you're on bloody thin ice there, murky water, whatever the
Yeah,
saying would be.
and again, right? It does that doesn't. I've always said this, right? That I don't think that should stop you from having those aspects in the film. But ultimately, what you will be doing is completely changing the tone of the film for the viewer if you add stuff like that. Which is why, when it comes to recommending this film and the total enjoyment of the film, for me, it's nothing but the theatrical version because it doesn't have the overriding questions of the additional material.
Yeah. Natalie Portman beat roughly 2,000 girls to win the part, amongst other high-profile names considered for the role: Liv Taylor and Christina Ricci.
Okay. Christina Ricci would have been good.
I was just about to say I can sort of see her in that role. And then we've talked about it sort of anyway, but in the original cut of the movie, Matilda asked Leon to be his lover, and he agrees. However, this scene scored so badly amongst test screenings that they changed ultimately the overall cut of the movie. So I forgot to ask you had this in university, but when was the first time you would have seen it?
I saw it off TV. It would either been BBC Two or Channel 4 late one night.
All right.
It might have been on the, what's it called? Is it Movie Drum?
Yeah, movie drum. Yeah.
On the Sunday night with, I'm pretty sure it was Mark Cousins at the time. God, I love that program.
It introduced you to so many films you probably wouldn't have watched at that age. And
No, I know.
we were quite young, but it was just an opportunity to just sit down and watch a movie because we didn't have that sort of instant gratification of just being able to pick any movie we wanted like we have now. So and also, if you went to a video shop, you may not have been able to see a film that was like 10 years old unless it was a really popular one that they kept. Yeah. So, we may not have seen like some 70s and early 80s movies because
also I'm pretty sure this might have been the same for you, but I used to love the Sunday night movie drum because I used to think to myself, there's a fair chance I'm going to be watching something pretty cool here, or something I would never see normally.
I had that sort of feeling, but also there's a fair chance I might see some boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
being prime age, teenage years.
Yeah, no, exactly. And especially if it was Sunday, because on Friday night you had Eurotrash.
Was that your day?
Yeah. Well, you had to have something, didn't you? In each day.
Eurotrash on Friday.
I'm sure something on Saturday. So it was, and then on Sunday, it was probably
Baywatch on Saturday, but
what was it?
Baywatch on Saturday.
And then on Sunday, maybe if it wasn't that, it'd be, I don't know,
Scorio
for Amanda Provo Thomas. Oh, that would have been Monday, actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to favorite aspect. I'm gonna throw one in straight away. I quite like the score. Sets a mood for me. It's really good. And I never noticed it before, but this time, early on in the movie, I was just thinking, music on this is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know who did it. Probably some French guy, no doubt.
Eric Serra. He's a French composer.
Well, there you go. But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to it. And then we've mentioned Natalie Portman, but I will give a shout out to Jean Reno.
Yeah, he plays it really well.
Yeah. You may not have seen him recently, but he looks like a current day version of one of our friends, Trouty.
Well, I hate to say this, but there was a couple of scenes in this film where I thought I was watching you.
I look like so many people.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's that short back and sides you got.
I'm like the visual representation of John Coleshaw, or whatever his name is, the impressionist.
Yeah.
So many like people, I can just play them.
But fancy dress, you got so many looks you can go with. It's unreal.
Joe Cole.
Novak Djokovic. Sly Stallone.
Yeah. A poor man's Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling, yeah.
There's probably hundreds more. Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to him because I do think he plays it well. And like I mentioned it earlier, that cinema scene just made me sort of smile, just the way he was, simple pleasures in life.
When you think about it, he's got hardly any dialogue in the film.
No. But also like he has to play someone who you're then questioning, right? Okay, does he have some sort of mental capacity struggles,
He's
or is it
I
just the case that his character has grown up? He came to this country at whatever age, we don't really find out. Tony takes him under his wing, but he's also groomed him in such a way that he's had to become this hitman, and that type of hitman then has to probably just switch off quite a lot of emotions to do the job he does.
I think it's a combination of he's a little simple, he's not educated because he doesn't know how to read or write,
Yeah,
and also he's emotionally vacant from
a bit like me. I'm 100%. I could play him in like a prequel.
your young Leon here.
Saying that though, he's 46 in this film, and that's only a few years off us. So I don't know how
So
much of
you're going
a
to play the 41-year-old version of it.
exactly.
Because watching it this time, it actually gave me the one positive I will say with the additional scenes is I think it gave it better context to his relationship with Tony
Yeah, yeah.
because it allowed you to see that Tony did care for Leon, but he was also kind of using him.
Oh, 100%. He was doing all his jobs and then he kept his money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Would you watch a prequel which explored the relationship of him, of Leon and Tony?
No,
I think I may.
the one I want to watch is the sequel that's
Well,
been
that was going to be my next question. A sequel of, yeah,
with
Matilda.
Natalie Portman because
Yeah.
apparently for a long time her and Luke Besson wanted to do it, but I think the studio weren't happy with Besson, but they had the rights to the script, so they just kept blocking Besson from doing it.
So I'll read this rather than me trying to paraphrase it, right? The original ending of Leon was conceived to be far darker than what transcribes in the release version. Rather than planting Leon's favorite shrub outside the orphanage to honor his memory, and it's not an orphanage, is it? She goes just back to like boarding school or whatever it is.
I don't. It might have been an orphan. I don't know.
Yeah. And then starts life. Matilda goes murderously insane. I don't. I sort of hope. I'm glad they didn't do it, but I
Hmm.
think yeah, it could be if set up. Then you then get to Matilda. What if she's 12 in this? Maybe 4 to 6 years time. She's 16, 18. She's maybe honed some of those skills, and she's Tony. She's persuaded Tony to take her under his wing a little bit as well, and she becomes a hitman.
Well, there's every chance if you did it when she's in her 20s that she's killed Tony.
Well, oh yeah, she found out this Tony spent all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing left for her. What about
My
you there? Have you got any particular favorite aspects that we haven't mentioned?
it's absolutely 100% nailed on Sir Gary Oldman.
He supposedly improvised all his lines.
But that scene, right, where he ultimately kills Matilda's family is incredible. It's so captivating to watch. Just the way he's doing his like thing with the like he's pretending to hear Mozart and all this. And do you know what I've always loved? I've always loved it. Every time I watch the film, is when he comes up. Do you know the what's the things that come down the kitchen? It's not a door.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The dumb waiters they're called, aren't they?
Yeah, and he just goes, he swishes his arms and he comes in like that, opens his arms up as if he's taking applause. I always loved that because I remember that's the first film, Leon, where not what I saw Gary Oldman, but I remember thinking, Jesus, he is a really, really good actor. Because that could have been so hammy.
Yeah, yeah, he's brilliant. He's in Fifth Element, isn't he, as well?
Mm,
I think he
yeah.
plays not a similar character, but there's elements of both of those characters that the way he plays them are similar. And yeah, watching it this time, I was drawing the comparisons, but I think he's a brilliant actor.
I can watch Gary Oldman in almost anything, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. There's so many films that he's done that maybe we should revisit.
Mm.
We should do Dracula
I
and
love
then
that.
and compare his performance to Keanu Reeves' performance in that film.
I'm sorry, right? I know
I'm not
Keanu.
saying it's bad, but they're
No,
just very different.
no. Right. And again, I'm not saying that Keanu Reeves is a good actor or that he's good in Dracula. But every time I've watched Dracula, I've never been like, Keanu Reeves is awful.
Maybe it's because Gary Oldman is so good in that
Yeah,
that
that's
he
true.
just elevates everyone else.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite scene? What have you got?
Uh, it's got to be the ending where Leon's just how he. What I like is it's almost believable how he manages that situation where the SWAT team are called in.
Yeah. Do you know what though, right? And I always read this as every apartment or every place that he goes to, he's probably scoped it out to a T before he gets there. So he knows where all the pinch points are. He knows where he can hide behind certain walls. And that entire sequence is great to the point where he gets to the end and he's given Gary Oldman the grenade.
Mm.
I love it.
I just love the idea though that he had the presence of mind when that bomb came in that he was like, right, they're gonna come in and sweep this place. Let me dress up as one of the officers I've already killed.
Yeah.
Keep the
And
mask on.
I don't know if this film was the first one that did it. Probably wasn't, right? But it's one of the first films I remember that switcheroo with and you're wearing a mask. And there's been so many copies of that, I think, since.
Mm.
Definitely. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
And just know the guy who's one of Gary Oldman's sort of henchmen, let's put it that way, and he's sort of heading up that SWAT team. It's just like he goes from this like massive macho guy who's like, yeah, fire, whatever. And then he's sending that other guy out before him and you
Yeah,
go and
yeah.
have a look. It is brilliant.
But I love the bit where the guy turns his head around the corner and Leon just puts the gun at his head.
He's right
And
there.
he's like, he's right here. He's got a gun to my head.
And yeah, I suppose they could have just all gone around the corner, but yeah, great. My favorite scene, I've got two, right? But I'll keep the last one as a honorable mention. But I do love the sniper scene, the first sniper scene where he's teaching her to shoot, and she shoots. I don't know what he is, but maybe some form of politician or something.
I took it as that.
Yeah, and because he's got like I don't want to
A
security
team.
sort of around him.
Yeah.
But that whole sort of how he's teaching her to breathe and just that motion. Yeah, I think that's a really powerful scene, I think, for the film.
Yeah.
My honorable mention was his John Wayne impression. It makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
That entire sort of sequence where he doesn't have a clue of any of hers, and then she hasn't got a clue of any of his either.
Yeah. It's all to do with pop culture references, but his pop culture reference is linked to the scene where he actually goes to the cinema because you get an idea of what type of films he's watching. So it's logical that he would then do John Wayne.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Although
I like.
I didn't understand how he wouldn't get the Marilyn Monroe one.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned about that because Natalie Portman has said that her impression of Marilyn Monroe is actually based on Wayne's World's impression of
Oh,
Marilyn
is he
Monroe.
really?
Yeah, when Wayne sings it to, is it Cassandra? Is that her name in it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Swing.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Oh, brilliant. So we move on to changes, unless you've got any more scenes that you want to give a mention to.
Well, I do, as I mentioned with the Gary Oldman, I love the scene where I love the scene where he completely destroys Matilda's life. But
Yeah.
that's a
I actually, it's a good point because I do love the bit where he can't stop shooting the guy on the floor, the dad.
yeah.
And I do quite like how they handle the death of her younger brother, in the sense of you don't really see it, you know it's happened, but then you know when she goes back and it's got the outline of her brother in chalk, it's not in chalk, but in tape or whatever it is. It's they could have so easily have just shown maybe a kid hunched down on the floor in the distance to represent the dead body. I quite like that. I I don't know how I would have felt if I actually saw a body on the screen, but yeah, I thought that was quite well done.
Well, if you're going to go down that road, I actually quite like how the kid met his death. It's like they didn't. It's almost like they didn't intend to kill
Yeah, yeah.
him. It's like he run out and that copper and that the surf copper or the dreadlock copper. He basically just shit himself and just started firing, didn't he?
And then they're all like just shooting through the wall, sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right then, changes. We've mentioned one for me, and that's the theatrical, the director's cut, and I think it's the over sexualization of the relationship. I personally don't, didn't need it within the film. The theatrical cut does enough for me, and you sort of leave it into your own interpretation. So I don't think we need to do that, say too much of that. The only other change I had was I probably would have wanted to see a bit more of Gary Oldman. We mentioned it already. I don't know where else you'd put him in there, but that
That's
relationship
what I
of
was going
him
to
being a
ask.
bent copper, I
Hmm.
wanted to see a bit more of that.
Yeah.
But then does it become the Gary Oldman film rather than the Leon film?
Well, because if you think about it, the only times Gary Oldman is actually seen is through Matilda's eyes.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So we there's never like a cutaway to a scene in the police station where Gary Oldman is talking to his squad or about things.
Actually, you do only get one that I think, and
Go on.
I'm not including the grenade bit at the end. You get the bit where he goes to visit Tony.
Yes,
But
but
I,
I
but
think that's
you
just
get that in the
essential to the
theatrical
plot,
cut.
isn't it?
Say that again, sorry.
Oh, sorry, man. I was going to say that's essential to the
Yeah,
plot.
yeah, essential to the plot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but do you get that in the theatrical version?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but you get it all where it's the family are there and they're
It's the birthday
the
party.
birthday parties and with the young kids. And
Yeah,
then
you
obviously
get that.
Tony gets a beating after that.
Yeah.
Surprised they didn't kill him. But
Well, because he does work for them.
yeah, yeah. So, sorts it out.
Hmm.
Yeah, what are the changes have you guys? That's only the only bit I've got really.
Honestly, but apart from what we've discussed with the theatrical and director's cut, I haven't got anything. I'm going to say you now, I love this film. I think it's a great film. It was one of my favorites when I was in my 20s. I watched it a lot in university. I'm glad to say I haven't watched it probably for about 10 years.
No, I'm similar amount of time, yeah.
So I was really looking forward to watching it this time. Now, part of me does wish that I had just watched the theatrical version because I know how much I love that version. But I still enjoyed the director's cut because there is so much to enjoy about it.
I just found it really interesting how they, can be the same film but take you down different routes.
Yeah, isn't it like fascinating how the addition or exclusion of a scene or two or some lines of dialogue can completely change the tone of a relationship or a character or even the film itself.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely,
That
definitely.
that's why I always say it's so hard to make a film, but it's even harder to make a good film because you got to get so many elements right. And that's why I try to be as forgiving as I can with a lot of films. That doesn't mean to say that I'm going to like give everything a pass. I mean, God, we've done some films on here that I don't like, but that doesn't mean I hate the film if I don't like it. I've still got what's the word? Admiration for someone just to put something together. in the hope that someone's going to enjoy it.
Yeah, no. And we've said this before, haven't we? I think it's very easy to criticize a film, but at the same time, it's fucking hard to make a film.
It's like someone working their ass off and releasing an album.
Yeah.
They've sat there and like written 12 tracks, normally, obviously. 12 tracks, they've recorded them, gone over and over them to try and make sure they're the best versions, then they release them. And then what you get most of the time is you get twats like us who are just sitting there going, oh, I fucking hated it.
Yeah. That's like when we've talked, I don't know, about the Short Circuit or the
Oh,
Explorers.
I didn't watch Explorers. The one for me was The Boy Who Could Fly, but that
Oh,
I deliberately nominated that one because I wanted us to do that.
uh, never mind. Right. Okay. Couple of final things on the film. And we've talked about most of the facts that I've got. Budget 16 million. Box office 46 million. So it had a, 3 times its budget back.
Mm.
I put money on it in the 90s, and the type of HMV not bargain, but offers. It probably did quite well. I reckon it did well on VHS and DVD.
Oh, yeah, I think so as well. Didn't it become like a cult classic?
Yeah, it must have. And here's a question for you: Would you have not would you have still watched? That's the wrong thing to say. But do you think you would be more inclined to watch it if it was called Leon the Professional, as it is also known as, or Leon the Professional? Because and maybe I'm a bit biased because I do love the film, but
Mm.
Leon always intrigued me. What do they mean by that? In the sense of, I never knew if it was Leon was the actual person's name or
Mm.
whether Leon meant something. And it wasn't then until you watched the film.
Right.
So that always intrigued me. So I don't know where they called it the Professional. What was it in the US or? But I've always known it as Leon.
I've always known it as Leon, but I gotta be honest, I don't think I even knew the name of it when I was watching it for the first time.
Well,
So
yeah, especially if you saw it on TV.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't know if it would have bothered me. I quite like I'm not particularly fond on what it's known as now, which is Leon the Professional. I would prefer either Leon or the Professional.
yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of the colon in a title.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like
it doesn't need it.
no, it's like I never call ET the extraterrestrial.
Well,
I
we
just
had this
call,
conversation. It's sort of repeating itself,
yeah,
but it's at the
exactly.
same time, it's not needed.
But I know why Spielberg did it because he's saying ET is the name, as the kids call him ET, and then Spielberg's just doing a riff on that, saying ET the extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he's doing. It's not like it was a oversight.
Yeah. It wasn't say, oh, let's just call two names sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I was on board with Adam insofar as you don't need to have the colon
yeah.
extra bit.
And that film these days is such a massive film. It's a bloody genre in itself at times.
Yeah,
So, final question. We always ask this: Would you recommend the film?
yeah, of course I would.
Same here. But I personally would only recommend the theatrical version, unless they were nerds like us. That I would then say, watch a theatrical version, then possibly watch a director's cut once.
I what I would say is right. I think watching the director's cut has made me appreciate the theatrical cut even more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's not to say that I think the director's cut is a bad version.
Like we've already said, it's just a different spin on it.
Yeah,
But for me, yeah, I think I love the other one.
the theatrical cut is it's just cleaner and it's just like it's an hour and 50 minutes and it's just like bang bang getting through it. I didn't realize even watching the director's cut today before I knew it 50 minutes had gone and
Yeah,
then that extra clump of scenes started and I was like okay I can see now where the additional material is and it was
yeah,
like all happening.
yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Mm.
All right. I'm going to take this moment. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here now, and this is for potentially a bit of content for YouTube, right?
God.
I'm
Okay.
going to ask you to name something, and if you don't know the answers, it's not the end of the world. But this, you'll get what I'm trying to get to in a minute.
Okay.
Name the 5 highest grossing movies from the 70s.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Top of the list, Star Wars, 221 million.
I want to say The Godfather.
Godfather, number 3. 133 million.
Superman.
Number 2,
Oh, got the
134.
got the top 3 anyway.
Yeah. One of your favorite films, number 4. And it's not E.T. because obviously that's 80s.
Close Encounters.
Same director, another
Oh,
film.
Jaws.
Jaws, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah,
Number
of course,
4,
yeah. Yeah.
133 million. And number 5, you're going to need some help with, right? Not necessarily your favorite genre of films.
Oh, is it a musical?
It's a musical.
Cabaret.
No, think the biggest musical ever.
Oh, Grease.
Grease. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
132 million. So hey, you did well there. Right, let's wrap this up. Podcasts come out every Wednesday. Check out our social media. And if you want us to do a film in the future, just let us know. Cheers all.